My name is Caroline. I'm 53 years old. I've lived most of my life quietly, married young, raised a son, work at part-time at the local library, and baked more banana bread than I care to admit. Love for me was always about duty on comfort, not excitement or mystery. I was content, or at least I convinced myself I was. I thought surprises were for people in novels or movies, not for women like me. But then one evening when the house was still, I thought I had everything under control. Something happened. I never thought something like this could happen to me. Please don't make it same mistake I did. It was a Saturday evening in early October. It's one of those days where the sun sets a little earlier and the breeze carries just enough chill to remind you that summer is truly gone. The house was unusually quiet. My son Daniel had gone out with his friends to a movie, and my husband was on a work trip. Again, that had become the norm lately. His absence humming beneath everything like background noise. I just settled into the couch in my cozy oversized cardigan, with a cup of Chumongal tea. The glow of the television flicked against the walls, but I wasn't really watching. I was flipping through old photo albums. Something I did more often than I cared to admit. Pictures of Daniel with missing teeth, Halloween costumes, birthdays. I smiled at one of them and at his best friend Evan, holding a crooked Lego tower with such pride. They must have been 7 or 8 back then. I was lost in that memory when the doorbell rang. At first I thought it must be Daniel. Maybe he forgot his key. But when I opened the door, I was greeted by Summy and Nettler, broader. It was Ian. He stood there, his hands shoved into the pockets of his hoodie, his face illuminated by the porch light. He looked older, not the boy from Thepachur anymore. There was a quiet tension in his holders. A weight in his expression that told me this wasn't a casual visit. Ian, is everything all right? I asked, stepping aside. Hey, Mrs. Cole, he said with a sheepish smile. Sorry, Ickno, it's late. I didn't know where else to go. There was something in his voice that made me open the door wider without hesitation. Come in, sweetheart. You're always welcome here. He stepped inside, brushing past me, and I caught a whiff something. Maybe colon, maybe just odom and cold air. I shut the door behind him and followed him into the living room. We sat. He didn't touch his tea, just held the cup in both hands as if to warm them. I watched him from across the room, studying his jawline, the slight scruff, the way his brow furrowed. Daniel's not home, I said gently, unsure if that would change anything. No, he replied, then added after a pause. I didn't come to see him. That surprised me. I blinked. Oh, he exhaled, slow eyes still fixed on you. Touched tea. I don't want to dump all this on you, but my parents are fighting gaggin'. It's bad this time. I just need it, I don't know. Somewhere quiet. I nodded, my heart softening. I knew what that felt like. The ache of tension at home. The search for peace. You are always safe here, I said. Hal looked up at me then, and his eyes, so familiar but different now, met mine in a way that made my breath catch just slightly. There was gratitude, yes, but something unreadable. Thanks, he murmured. You always met at this place, feel like home. I smiled gently and reached over to squeeze his hand. It was meant to be comforting, maternal even. But the moment my finger touched his, something shifted. Didn't pull away, neither did I. There was a long, heavy silence. I withdrew slowly, unsure of what I was feeling. Maybe I was imagining the electricity in that brief contact. Maybe I was. Just lonely, and this was nothing more than a vulnerable boy needing comfort. But my pulse was louder now. I stood more to steady myself than anything else. Would you like to stay for dinner? I made a roast earlier. There's plenty. He smiled again. That same quiet smile? Yeah, that sounds good. As I moved to the kitchen, I caught a glimpse of us in the reflection of the sliding glass door. Me fussing with plates and him still on the couch watching me. That moment felt strange and heavy, familiar, but edged with something new I didn't know how to name. I told myself I was overthinking it, that this was just a van. Sweet, polite Evan. Hugh used to call me Miss C when Hugh was little and track mud through my house without apology. But a part of me, a quiet awakening part, wondered if tonight would be different, and if I was ready for with that meant. Dinner was quieter than I expected. I've placed 2 plates on Thekachan table, roast mashed potatoes, green beans, and lit a small candle out of habit. I didn't usually bother when I was Saloni. But something about even Binthar made me want to create a sense of comfort of calm. Maybe it was the way he looked at me like I was someone who could hold the world still for just a moment. He ate slowly, politely, occasionally glancing up from his potato, thank me, or make a soft comment. Wetticked about safe things at first, his classes, Daniel's usual antics. Football season, but under all of it, I felt that invisible thread tightening, pulling us closer, not physically, but in understanding. You always cook like this, he asked, gesturing to the plate, smiled, sipping from my glass only when I need to feel normal. He nodded like he understood. Yeah, I get that. For a while, we just listened to the wind brush against the windows. The air was still warm from Theovan, the kind that wraps around your shoulders like a blanket. But inside me, there was something else. Not warmth exactly, but anticipation. After we finished, started clearing dishes, and Evan followed, insisting in helping. I handed him a towel while I washed, and for a few minutes it felt like we were playing house. Domestic, simple, quiet. But then his hand brushed mine when I passed him a wet plate, and both froze for a split second. He looked up, so did he. The room was still, save for the soft clink of water drops into the sink. I'm sorry, he said quietly. For what? I didn't know. He paused, then added, maybe for making this weird. I turned off the faucet, drying my hands slowly. Not weird. Not unless we make it. He set the plate down and leaned slightly against the counter. His eyes searched mine. For something I wasn't sure what. I didn't plan to come here, he said after a moment. I didn't want to be anywhere else. I felt something shift inside me. Not fear, not confusion, just an undeniable awareness. I wasn't just a host tonight. It wasn't just someone's mother or wife. I was Caroline, a woman who hadn't felt really seen in years. I swallowed. You've grown up so much, Evan. He smiled a little shyly. So have you. I let out a breath of disbelief, shaking my head. Oh, please. I'm over 50. You're barely out of college. He tilted his head. That doesn't mean I didn't see you. That sentence hit me harder than I expected. Maybe because it had been so long since. Someone sends a method like that to me, without judgment, without pretense. He asterisk me. Not just the role I played, not just Daniel's mom, but me, part of me, the part that had stayed quiet for too long, stirred. I don't know what. This is, I admitted, leaning against the opposite counter or what you're thinking. But you have to understand this isn't something I've ever considered. I know, he said. I didn't come here with a plan. I feel safe around you, and I wanted to be near someone who, madam, feel real. His words lingered in fear, delicate and sharp at the same time. I turned to face the window. Watching shadows dance across the backyard, the reflection of Evan behind me, his arms crossed, head lowered slightly, made the moment feel even more fragile. I should get going, he said quietly. Before this turns into something we can take back. I didn't stop him. Booty didn't ask him to leave either. Instead, I simply nodded. Let me at least pack you some leftovers. He stood in the kitchen doorway. As he scooped food into a Tupperware, my back to him, hands shaking ever so slightly. When I turned to hand it to him, our fingers touched again. And this time the tension didn't feel accidental. It felt chosen. His eyes held mine longer than they should. Have good night, Mrs. Cole. My throat wastery. Good night, Ivana Dot, and just like that, he was gone. I closed the door, leaned against it, and closed my eyes. The silence of the house now felt different, heavier as Somo. Not lonely exactly, but charged as if the walls themselves were holding in too. What had just happened or nearly happened? I stood there for a long time, hands still resting on the doorknob, and all I could think was, why did E want him to come back? The next morning, I moved through the house like I was sleepwalking. The coffee brewed. The sunlight poured through the kitchen window. The radio hummed soft jazz in the background. Everything felt normal, and yet nothing did. I kept glancing at the door, half expecting Evan to be standing there again, hoodie pulled tight, irking for comfort. But the hours passed, and the knock never came. Daniel returned home in the afternoon, laughing as he told me about the movie and the late-night diner run with his Frinas. He mentioned Evan briefly, something about him leaving early, not feeling well. I played along, nodding at right moments, but my mind was caught in the tangle of what had happened the night before. Or maybe it was what almost asterisk happened that haunted me more. Bivening, I couldn't sit still. I walked through the house picking up things that didn't need picking up. Folding already folded laundry, reorganizing spices I'd memorized years ago. My heart felt like Kia kettle left on the stove, low and simmering, always on the edge of boiling over. Around 8 p.m., the phone buzzed. K? A messagey even asterisk K. Can I stop by for a minute? Won't stay long. Asterisk. I stare at it for longer than I should have, rereading it over and over like it was written in some foreign language. Ethams hovered over the screen. Me, asterisk. Sure, I'm home. I didn't have time to change out a thealed sweater I was wearing. I didn't light a candle or straighten the cushions or run a brush through my hair. I just stood there by the door until I heard his car pull into the driveway. Huck knocked gentler this time. When I opened it, he looked the same, but something in his eyes had changed. He looked more assured of himself, and yet still waiting for permission to speak. I shouldn't they've come last night, he said, his voice low. But I'm not sorry I did. I let that hang between us before stepping aside. Come in. He walked in slowly, like he wasn't sure how welcome he really was. I've been thinking, he continued, stopping in the middle of the living room. I don't want to make you uncomfortable. That's the last thing you want. But something's been growing inside me for a long time. I didn't even realize it until last night. I stayed quiet. The walls felt closer, unusual. My heart thudded loud in my chest. When I was younger, I always noted how warm you were, how patient, how you looked at people like they mattered. I don't think I knew what that meant back then, but I do now. Even I started, but my voice caught. I know this is complicated, he said quickly. And I know you're married, and I respect it. I swear I do. But I also think we both felt something last night. I turned away from him, staring down at the fireplace mantel. The framed photos of Daniel Thessalonier snow globe from our family trip to Maine. I suddenly felt like I was being pulled in two different directions, each equally real, equally heavy. I've lived half my life for other people, I said quietly. For Daniel, for me husband, for this house, this routine. I'm not saying I regret it. But somewhere along the way, I forgot I was allowed to feel something. For me, asterisk. He stepped closer, not touching me, just standing there quietly, patiently. You didn't imagine it, he said. I felt it too, and I don't expect anything from you. I just needed you to know. The next few moments passed in silence, but they were louder than anything I'd heard all day. I don't know what to do with this, I admitted. This isn't something IPL and Ed. It's not even something I understand it. You don't have to understand it right now, he said. You just have to let yourself feel it. I turned around slowly and looked at him. Really looked at him, the boy I used to make sandwiches Forno, a man standing in front of me with honesty in his voice and something deeper in his eyes. The space between us felt smaller now, and for the first time in mine years, I felt seen. I need time, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. He nodded. Then I'll wait. And just like the night before, he left without asking for anything more. But this time, when the door clicked shut, I didn't feel conflicted. I felt alive. The days that followed were quiet, but not in the way you said to be. It was the kind of quiet that tummed with awareness, a constant thrum just beneath the surface. I moved through my routines as usual, grocery shopping, tidying the house, answering mails. But everything felt a little different, lighter somehow and heavier too. I couldn't stop thinking about Devon, not in a reckless romantic way, not entirely. It was deeper than that. It was the way he'd looked at me without judgment. The way his presence had peeled back a layer I didn't even know he'd built around myself. I'd spent years dimming my own light so others could shine. And suddenly, someone had noticed. I didn't tell Inyan. Not Daniel, not my sister, not the neighbor who always managed to catch him at the mailbox with the late neighborhood gossip. I kept it close, like a fragile secret I wasn't ready to unpack yet. But I knew I had to do something. One afternoon, I found myself driving without thinking, my hands on the wheel moving as if they already knew where to go. I ended up in the old park where I used to take Daniel and Ian when they were little. The one with the faded swings and the duck pond that Al Wesmold faintly of algae. I parked and sat on a bench under the big elm tree that still stood strong in the center. I pulled out my phone. For a while, I just stared at the blank message screen. Then I typed asterisk, asterisk me, asterisk, asterisk, asterisk in here if you want to talk. Same bench, some park, asterisk. He didn't reply right away, and for a moment I considered driving home. But before I could start the engine, I saw his car pull into the lot. He walked toward me with calm, deliberate steps. He wasn't smiling. Looked serious, and I appreciated that. This wasn't about chasing something fleeting. It was about facing something real. Sat down beside me, leaving just enough space to breathe, but not enough to feel distant. I didn't expect to hear from you, he said softly. I've been thinking. I replied about everything, about what it means to be seen, about what it means to want something and not feel ashamed of it. He looked at me with those same eyes, kind, steady, open. I didn't come here with answers, I said. I just came here to be honest. He waited. I care about you even. But I also care about the life I've built. My marriage, it's not broken, but it's been quiet for a long time, too long. And maybe Thatsilence made room for something that shouldn't have been there. Or maybe it made me realize I've been silent too. He nodded slowly, absorbing every word. I'm not going to act on what we felt. Not in the way we thought we might, I continued. But that doesn't mean I'm going to pretend it never happened either. A gust of wind stirred the leaves above us. For a while, neither of us spoke. I understand, he said finally, and I'm glad you told me. I never wanted to cause trouble in your life. I just wanted you to know that you matter. I blinked hard. That sentence nearly undid me. I forgot what it felt like to hear that, I said. We sat for a while, watching a pair of children toss breadcrumbs to ducks in the pond. The air smelled like earth and old memories. I don't regret coming to your house that night, he said quietly. Neither do I replied. But I think what we needed from each other wasn't about romance. He was about being seen, being valued, even if just for a moment. He turned to me. Then I'm glad I could give you that. I smiled, and this time it didn't feel complicated. Felt peaceful. When we stood to leave, he gave me a long, warm hug, the kind that says goodbye without regret. I watched him walk away, not with longing, but with clarity. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of tea, no television, no photo albums, just me and the quiet. But this time, the silence didn't feel empty. It felt earned. And for the first time in a long while, I felt like a woman who could begin again. Not because of what happened, but because of what did remembered about myself through it. I am still Carolyn, and I am still